Hello YouTube, this is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. Yes, we are going to be talking about more Mandela effects, but in this video we are going to also be talking to you about what I believe the messages are. As you know, I've come to the conclusion that the Mandela effect is not random, because if it were, I guarantee you the entire world would have blown itself up by now. The Mandela effect is a targeted effect that is done consciously by beings in higher dimensions in different times in order to send us a message. So I'm going to be sharing with you what I think some of the obvious messages are in some of the Mandela effects, and we're going to be talking about mostly about things in art and why that's important, why the messages that are coming across in art are so important. And I want you to take a look at the links that I have below. One is a link that explains 11 dimensions. And basically what I want you to do is understand that beings in higher dimensions have the ability to create the Mandela effect. So when you understand that, somebody can come in and do that. And that's because it's important to understand that this isn't just random timelines crashing into each other. As I said, if that were the case, the world would have blown itself up. The things that are changing are things that aren't necessary to our survival, but they are things that are very necessary for our psychological and historical identity, and that's being destroyed. We are becoming aware that reality is not what we think, and people are waking up. And in the next of the two links that I have below, this is a really great one having to do with how the warning on rear view mirrors has changed. And the reason why it's good is, number one, it shows a lot of residual proof that this is something that did change. And it also shows what happens to somebody, again, who's not spiritual necessarily or religious, but they become aware that something non-physical and therefore something spiritual is happening. And that is the point. The point of the Mandela effect is that there are beings, perhaps us in the future, who are reaching back and getting our attention so that we wake up to the nature of our reality, wake up to the fact that things are changing, that something is coming, and that, we need to wake up. So let's just get right on with it. There's a lot here, so I'm going through this in no particular order. So the first one is Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, the painting of God the way it used to be, God reaching down and touching Adam's finger. That has changed. Let's see, is this the one I'm looking for? No, that's the objects in the mirror. Here's the photo the picture as it stands now. Now, it is true that God on the right is slightly above Adam, but look at the hands. Actually, what's happening is Adam's hand is going down to touch God's finger. And God and Adam are almost 100% level and equal. Now, if you don't notice, if when you look at this, if something doesn't look really wrong, then this hasn't affected you. But when I close my eyes and I think about what this was, God was much higher. And Adam wasn't looking, this is important too, Adam is looking directly across. His head is looking directly across, meaning he sees God as his equal. Before, Adam's head was cocked back and he was looking up, and God was looking down. He was rotated so that he was not only above but looking down, and the arms went like this. They didn't go flat like this, they went like this. And there's a lot of residual evidence for this. One of them is from the movie Lucy, which is a really interesting movie in and of itself. But I grabbed a picture from that, and that is the angle that it used to be. Again, remember, I'm an actor. I've been in the movie business. I promise you, that picture right there, that still frame of the movie, there are directors, directors of photography, art directors. There were people who sketched it out. I guarantee you that exact angle, there were hundreds of hours spent, not only in making mock-ups, but also the directors of photography did that, so that when they filmed it, everything was precisely in the right place. Movie makers do not make these kinds of mistakes. So if you look at this one, look at how big the difference is. The movie version of Lucy there is, and in case you don't know, Lucy, then this this is like a takeoff on that. Lucy is evolving, and she goes back in time and touches the first human, which is Lucy, or the proto-human, and so it's replaying. It's saying that she's God now. That's the whole. Go watch the movie Lucy. You'll know what I'm talking about. So this is really important because this isn't something that was altered for effect. Notice Lucy, the monkey's hand here. Notice how it is going up. And then look at Adam's hand. He's actually pointing down. All right, why is this so important? The reason why this is so important, again, and it's absolutely mind-boggling to me that so-called experts who are downplaying this are not seeing this, because I think they're part of the narrative. The narrative now is much more than what the government has told us. The narrative is the narrative that this is the way it's always been. This is what the deep state wants you to believe. The deep state does not want you to wake up. The deep state does not like Mandela effects, because it is actively shifting and changing people's minds and breaking them out and realizing that, holy crap, we live in a non-physical, energetic, spiritual universe, and things are not at all what they seem. And that means people will wake up and they won't be able to be controlled. People are going to stop trusting everything that's thrown at them. They're going to question everything. And when people are upset in this way and they want to find out the truth, it makes them harder to control. So trust me, the deep state does not want you to even notice the Mandela effect. That's why there's so many videos and so many articles that gaslight you out of it. In fact, they gaslight you. They say, it's very easy for people to think such and such, but people misremember, and some of it is just so obvious. Like some of the things we're going to talk about. This is one of them. It's just off. I look at it and it's off. Adam has always been craning his head looking up at God. God has been rotated. He's been rotated down this way so that he's still in that exact same position, but he's rotated down like that. And he looks down at Adam. And on top of it, again, look at the hands. Look at the, sorry, not that one, this one. Look at the hands. That is huge. Adam is pointing down. Why is that such a big deal? Remember the history. Michelangelo was painting this for the church when the Catholic Church was ruling the world. People were still being put to death, being put to death as witches. They were burned at the stake for reading the Bible in its rightful word, not following church's doctrine, etc., etc. The church hired Michelangelo to make the church more powerful, which is God is everything, kneel down. This is blasphemy in the highest. I mean, when you look at that, which hand looks stronger? Adam's hand on the left looks much stronger. God looks weaker. He's having to crane himself up. This is huge. These are the kinds of things that, besides the fact that it's just wrong, it's just wrong. It's wrong in all kinds of ways, but the meaning is obvious. The meaning is that man is now becoming God. That is the message that is coming from whomever is creating these effects, whoever is changing time, changing things, again, ubiquitous, iconic images in our society. Not, I didn't wake up this morning and people were driving on the left side of the road in the United States. They're still driving on the right side of the road. I woke up and the sun came up in the east and is going down in the west. That hasn't changed. If these were two timelines that were crashing together, those things would be changing. People wouldn't be speaking the same languages. People would have 4 eyes and some would have 2, some would have 3. Everybody's heart has shifted, not just mine or yours. So this means that who's ever behind this Mandela effect is choosing only the things that are iconic to our awareness and to our understanding of the narrative of society and our relationship to the universe. But they're not trying to get us killed. They're also doing it in such a way, there's enough subtlety that people aren't picking up guns and blowing their brains out. Because if they did, if they did it like, if they did, let's say this, and it was completely flipped around, it's slightly skewed in the grand scheme of things. But the message is, again, huge. And the message that our higher dimensional friends or our future selves are saying is that you're God now. Religion is over. And that message is seen and would have been seen back when Michelangelo painted this. If he had painted it that way, there's just no two ways about it. The church that hired him would say, that is blasphemy. You have made man greater than God. And the fact that people don't see that is mind-boggling to me. All right, the next one. Mona Lisa's smile. Well, I wish I knew when these things had happened because I'm just becoming aware of them. And I can't help the feeling that literally some of these things have happened in the past few days or few months, because I could swear that I saw something about Mona Lisa's lack of smile just recently. I could be wrong. Maybe it was a few years ago. I don't know. But let's get to that one. So Mona Lisa's smile. All right, now let's get to that later. Mona Lisa. All right, so I've got this picture here. And it's not exact, but it's pretty good. So the one on the right, see, here's the thing. It's comical looking to me. These are iconic things. I have seen the Mona Lisa for decades. I'm almost 60 years old. I have seen it for decades. The one on the right, where she's smiling, it looks comical. And again, it's not blasphemous because it's not a religious one, but during that time, art was about the nobility of human beings. And this was what the painter here, again, when I get deep into thought, I lose names. Maybe I'm getting old. Not Michelangelo. Anyway, the famous painter. Anyway, he was all about the nobility of the human body. She's being frivolous. That's how it would have been seen at the time, the way that art was done. If you look at all the rest of, maybe the rest of the paintings have been changed, everybody's got a smirk on their face. But that is, it comes across, as I said, like she's got a shit-eating grin that she knows something that you don't. It's laughable. It's not a smile, it's a smirk. And that's the message. The message is, we know something you don't. It's just the fact that you idiots don't see it. The one on the right isn't exact. I don't know what they did or where they got that, but she looks dead in that. The actual picture was she looked sad. It wasn't that she wasn't smiling. It's that she looked sad and angry. She looked like somebody who was depressed. And that's what I was going to show you here with this one. No, not this one. This. Now, this is a residual. This is Lisa Simpson. And, you know, the Simpsons did that on purpose. Look at that. She is not smiling in the least. In fact, she's almost frowning. In fact, it's actually quite well done because you can see that there's almost a smile. And that was the whole thing, is that Mona Lisa has this almost smile, but when you look at her eyes, when you look at the rest of her face, when you look at her body, she's angry, she's sad, she's depressed, she's detached. There's nothing warm about her. People would talk on and on and on about, you know, why did the painter choose to do this? You know, she's so sullen. That is very, very close. The feeling and the look of it is what I remember. And this is a residual because it's coming from the Simpsons, who've been around for decades. And so this is the other thing. Whoever is doing and consciously crafting the Mandela effect is leaving lots of evidence. And again, if we were in a court of law, it could be evidentiary that would, you know, you could use to make a case that somebody has changed things. This is how it originally was. Anyway, so I'll let that one go. I've got here, as you see, I've got two pictures which I want you to, I'm putting it here in the background so it'll get into your brain. So this is a tesseract. It's just a static picture of a tesseract, which is a four-dimensional object, which we can't see in 3 dimensions. And that's a static. That's if we were to look at it static, and then I've showed you here, that is the shadow. Now the shadow is the 3D representation. In other words, when 4D objects influence 3D, it literally makes that shadow. So when you do the 8-sided practices like the Mao Shan practices, when you do you know, any of the rituals where you face the 8 directions and do whatever, you are actually tapping into the 4D, right? We talked about that. Here, this is a 4D tesseract, and it's an animation. Now, when you look at the animation, it looks like it's moving. It looks like it's stationary, but it's morphing, but it's not. What's happening is that somebody has taken that tesseract, that 4-dimensional cube, which instead of having 8 points to delineate, you know, the space, it has 16 points. We can't look at that and understand the 16 points. It just looks like a weird jumble. It looks like somebody took 2 cubes and sort of smashed them together. But it's stationary. But when you rotate it, it does this. So you see that? That is, again, I look at it and I don't know what I'm looking at. But it's important to understand that, because what I'm going to talk about next is I've been thinking, and my friends, my light being friends have been helpful to me. The other day when I was very depressed as a result of losing my reality, as a result of becoming aware that, holy crap, history is changing, and how traumatic that was for me. I called on my friends and I asked them to come and help me, and they did. And they came and they did some energy work on me. And at one point, one master healer showed up, and she went in and she said, "Ooh, we have to adjust some things in your heart center." And she went in and started doing this. Now, again, I didn't see anything, but this is the way it felt. I felt her say that, and then there was a huge shift of energy that was very palpable. And then like a block of energy in my body started shifting. In my mind, I could see somebody leaning over and rotating. So you see how this is rotating? That's there. You're looking at this. Imagine that. That's how it looks when it's still. This is what it looks like when it rotates. So you see when it rotates, space itself gets altered in strange ways. Just in 3 dimensions, if I rotate something, you can't see the label, but if I rotate it, you can see the label. If I rotate it here, it's kind of dark, but if I rotate it, the light blocks things out. So when you rotate things even in 3 dimensions, you start to see things from different perspectives. And what I'm coming to realize is that what we're going to look at art, like the one we just looked at, somebody from another dimension went and simply rotated space-time. And that didn't change anything except that Adam and God shifted. When the beings came to heal me and they literally rotated my energy, they said, before you get up out of bed, you have to fix your body and rotate it like this. They showed me how to rotate my body. So in other words, instead of staying flat like that on the bed, I shimmied myself until I was like this, and then I got out of bed. And they said, you have to align your body with your energy body, which we've shifted. That seemed silly to me at the time, except they had shifted me on another dimensional level, and I had to have my mind shift over to that. I think that also explains why my right ear is always ringing, especially when I'm doing videos, when I'm talking to you, when I get downloads. My right ear rings, and sometimes it closes all the way up. It's ringing right now. Sometimes my left ear will ring a little bit, but it's almost always my right ear, which I think has to do with the future, as well as my left brain learning how to expand and understand things I couldn't understand before. All right, so I'm trying to get through everything here. So go back and listen to that again if it doesn't make sense. Watch the video links. That'll be helpful. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. Mona Lisa's smile. The pyramids have 8 sides. I don't have a picture of that. As we all know, the pyramids only have 4 sides. But apparently now you can only see it from above in a plane. The flat sides of the pyramid have vertices in between. I don't know if I said that. I made a video about the pyramids, and I may have said something about it, but I guarantee you it was brand new information to me, but I didn't realize. I thought it was just something I had overlooked. So that is also, again, when you change dimensions, you'll learn this when if you haven't already, watch the videos about different dimensions. The 3rd dimension has 8 reference points. Think of a cube. There's 8 points. There's 4 on the top. There's 4 on the bottom. You connect the lines. Those 8 points create 3-dimensional space. Every time you go from one dimension to the next dimension, those reference points double. So this cube here, the reason why it doesn't make any sense to us is because it has 16 points on it. So it has double the reference points, which is why when you rotate it, we just get this nonsensical, weird looking, we don't know what that is. We can't, I mean, if we lived in 4 dimensions, we could look at that 2-dimensional representation, and our brains would fill in the blanks, and we would see it as, yeah, that's our reality. But we look at it now, and it's just some weird, trippy, animation. But no, that is a 16 reference point cube rotating. That's that cube rotating. So the pyramids have gone from 4 sides to 8 sides. That is a clear message. And the significance of the pyramids for everybody, but for those who are on the fringe of the science, realize that the pyramids are actually something like 35,000 years old, and they weren't a tomb. They were actually built to be an energy generator that changed the energy field on the earth so that people wouldn't go into the dark ages and lose their higher dimensional connections. In other words, they were living in 5D and they knew they were going to step down. So they built the pyramids and used water to create electromagnetic field that went around the world. And that has since, as you know, there's evidence that there was some tragedy. There was like explosions, things like that. So when the Earth shifted out of whatever allowed it to be in 5D way back when, during Satya Yuga, when it shifted, there was some kind of serious tragedy and the pyramids, blew up. So now what's happened is that, maybe back then the pyramids might have been 8-sided before. And when they shifted into another timeline, they shifted back. Maybe, the people who built the pyramids, maybe they went through the same thing we're going through, except in the opposite direction. That wouldn't surprise me. That just came to me. Hopefully that's the case. If that's the case, then this is a good thing that we're experiencing. But it's a clear message from higher dimensions that we're shifting into the next dimension. How do I know that? Because what used to only have 4 sides now has 8 sides. Again, it's not that it has 8 specific sides, it's that the sides have a crease in them, which creates a vortex, a vertices. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. All right, let's keep going. Smokey the Bear now is Smokey Bear. Sorry, he was Smokey the Bear. He always was. Cruella de Vil is now Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil, her last name was Deville. And this is just a joke. Who's ever changing this is just making an obvious joke. I mean, it's ludicrous. DE space VIL, Cruella Devil, Cruella de Vil. Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. I grew up watching Scooby-Doo every day after school. After, a junior high school and first couple of years of high school, I'd come home and I'd lie down on the couch and I would watch cartoons. And guess one of the cartoons would have been Scooby-Doo, and Shaggy had a big Adam's apple. I mean, it was cartoonish. And if you look at his neck now, his neck is really thin, and there's no detail on it. It's just a thin neck. It's cartoonish and out of place. Here's the next one I want to talk about, which is huge. So there's a link to it. Watch it, because not only does it show what happens to a non-spiritual person who cannot deny the reality of what he's seeing in these things, but he gives huge amounts of evidence that it's always been that way, including in one of the Cheers episodes, there's a joke about it. There's lots of jokes and lots of things, including The Simpsons. And anyway, watch that. It's obvious that this thing was taken out, but not in all of the other ways. Not in all of the movies and TV, articles, clothing, bags, memes, shirts. And that is, I'm going to show you this. You tell me which one looks more accurate to you. Let's see, it's up here. This one or this one? So look at both of these. On the left, you see objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Look at the writing, how it's stacked up. Does that look right to you? Or does the one on the right? Objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. As you look at it, what's interesting to note is that it's lined up as a square. It's just everything is lined up perfectly. There's only one shift in that instead of the words may be, that has changed to the word are. So first off, you just sit there and look at it and decide, you can put in the comments, which one of those looks right to you. All right, objects in mirror are closer than they appear, or objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. I saw that video And the person said, objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. And I said, yeah, that's how it's always been. And then as I'm watching the video, he's saying, no, it's changed now. It's changed? I started to think that maybe that was something that was no longer on rear view mirrors, because I was going, I'm thinking back to the 80s, and I remember it exactly as objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. And then I had to go somewhere, and I went out, and sure enough, on my car, there was that. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. And I realized when I looked at it that it wasn't a big enough change that I would have made any, I wouldn't have taken note of it. But if somebody had pointed it out, I would have said, well, obviously, yeah, they've changed the wording. I don't know when, but it must have been, recently, maybe a couple of years ago or something. Anyway, who cares? Except that that's not the case. In this reality, the history is that this has been always, objects in mirror are closer than they appear. But I promise you, in my timeline, it was always that. Objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. If you don't believe me, watch the link below, and the guy does a brilliant job of showing all, at least, probably not all, but movies, television, articles, parodies. It was objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. Now, what is the message here? Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If you knew, if it changed right in front of you, the message would be very clear, which is that wake up. What you think is coming for you is closer than you realize. The shift is closer than you realize. The more that I do this, I didn't want to do this. I don't get any pleasure in this. I don't. It's not fun for me. When I first heard of this one, I thought, that's interesting. And then when I saw that, I went, yeah, that does not look right. And then when I saw this, I actually felt something in my stomach flip. And it was a very uncomfortable, anxious feeling, because I became aware that, oh my God, that is how things were. Reality has changed. History has changed. And that is what that message is. The message of objects are closer than they appear. It was deliberately, somebody found it and deliberately shifted it so that we would get the message that it's here. What is happening as I continue to do this research, as I said, I'm not enjoying this, but I want to know the truth now. And now that I know what's going on, I'm not going to stop looking for it. I'm not going to spend all my days researching it, but when it comes up, I'm going to look for it. And the feeling that I'm having now is that this has happened. I mean, it's such a huge phenomenon. It's happening in every part of our iconic cultural memory. And when you start out, the first few of them, you scratch your head, you go, no, that's not it. Oh, well, we must have missed one word. No, you misremembered that. Okay, I can't explain that one. Holy crap, that one's really bothering me. I think I remember it exactly that way, but maybe you're right. And then it becomes just unbearable, that you just become bombarded with messages that are telling you that reality is not fixed in stone, that time is not fixed in stone, and that something is coming, and it's coming fast. It's speeding up. My feeling is that this Mandela effect is increasing exponentially. Part of that is I'm becoming aware of it, but I also feel like it's happening exponentially. But the other weird thing about it is that it is an actual time ripple. So there are going to be people, even if they wake up the next day and their mirror went from objects may appear closer, or whatever, objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. If they wake up the next day and it's actually changed to objects and mirror are closer than they appear, if it's not something they're emotionally attached to, or if they're really wrapped up in their ego, their selfishness, or wrapped up in the narrative, they will allow that shift. They might have a moment of, that's not right, but they want to be part of the narrative. They don't want to feel crazy, and it'll happen instantly, and before they know it, they'll remember, oh yeah, it's always been like that. I remember seeing that as a kid. All right, the next one is really, really, really weird. And that one is Rodin's The Thinker. Rodin's The Thinker. Did I put that in here? I'm going to have to upload that right now as we speak, because I'm pretty sure that I did that. The Thinker. All right, there it is. Mandela Thinker. Yeah, I did. So let me just upload that while we're talking. It's only going to take me a second. But this one is really, I think the message on this one is really important, because this has to do with us trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So Rodin's The Thinker is a very famous giant sculpture. And sorry, I have to do two things at once, and being a typical male, it's hard for me to do that. Well, maybe, maybe everything will shift. What happened to it? Let's try this. There it is, Mandela Thinker. There it is. All right, so uploading that. There it is. All right, look at those. Which one of those looks right to you? Here's the thing that's really, I can't think this. I can't get my mind around it, which I think is, I think this was done on purpose. The one on the right is the actual now in this timeline, the thinker. And you see his hand is like this. And on top of that, he's covering his mouth, and he's kind of doing this. This is a flustered person who can't figure out what the hell's going on. The one on the left, the one on the right is the actual one in this timeline. The one on the left is how many people remember it. Both of those exhibit somebody who's flustered. Bear in mind, at the time that this was made, these pieces of art were meant to show the nobility of the human animal. Neither of these are right. The original was he had his hand in a fist and it was under his chin. In meaning that this was somebody who was deep in thought, who was a powerful thinker. I mean, the fist denoted power. He was a powerful thinker. And he was thinking deeply on subjects, but he had it together, the fist closed. When somebody does this, they're not flustered. Somebody who does this, they're flustered. Somebody who does this is suicidal. They can't figure out what the hell's going on. The message of this one is very clear. You're not going to be able to figure this out. Stop trying to figure it out. It's not logical. Surrender to the unbelievable, because what is happening to you is unbelievable based on 3D awareness. We are shifting into a higher dimension. Let go. Stop trying to figure it out. It's very clear. That is the biggest one. I mean, the shift of the Mona Lisa going from being sullen and not having a smile to having a smirk. That is shift. That's a subtle shift. The shift of Michelangelo's, that shift, going from that to that, is huge, but it's subtle enough that it can go past you. But the thinker, being neither of what it was. It was this. Going from this to this, or no, I remember it being this, means either that it's been changed twice, which is that, you know, the guy really can't figure out what the hell's going on, the message, or people's memories about something very important, which is the ability to think through your reality, is that we are just all over the place. The message is very clear. Let's get to the heart. So the thing that you saw, if you watched the live stream where one of the live streamers said, the heart has shifted too, and I didn't pay attention. He tried to tell me a couple times I didn't pay attention, and then I saw it, and I, as I do, you know, I like to point out conflation, confusion, you know, people aren't paying attention. He said, the heart has shifted. It's now in the center, and you can see me, unless they changed reality. Again, you can see me reacting very strongly with great derision. And I say, it is not in the center. All right, I'm going to look this up. And I looked it up, and sure enough, the heart is smack dab in the center, slightly, just a bit of the left ventricle is in the left chest. But when I was a kid and as a young adult in college, the heart was in the left side of the chest, in the left pec. If you wanted to stab somebody in the heart, if you stabbed them in the center, it wouldn't kill them. If you stab them here, it'll kill them. Stab them here, you stab them through the clavicle. If they get shot in the left breast, it means they got shot in the heart. If they got shot in the right breast, they'll be okay. So remember what I said, look at this. This is rotating. That's not a moving object. It's not moving. It is still. But when you rotate it in 3D, because it's a 4D thing, it shifts. And the point is, remember, the beings that helped me, what did they do? They went in and they rotated my energy. They did that from a higher dimension, which means that my energy body was shifted into and from a higher dimension. The heart is still in our bodies. What happened is reality. The third dimension itself was rotated. And when they did that, specifically attached to where the heart is, the heart moved. You didn't feel it. You didn't notice it. But when you look at it in 3D, like if I stop this, I'll show you with this. All right. So if I stop this, right? That is a four-dimensional cube, and I've now put it on pause. It looks like that. What happens when I rotate it? When I rotate it a little bit, whoop, everything shifts. But it hasn't. It looks like the top has moved, the inside has come out, but it hasn't. All that's happened is it's been rotated this way. But when you look at it, that looks like a completely different object than that. That is a totally different object from our 3D perspective. But all that happened is that what's happening is that you are rotating in the fourth dimension, and in the third dimension, everything gets moved around, but you're still looking straight ahead. So here's what I did. I went back because the day later I was flipping out, and did I hear that right? Did that really happen? And I just simply typed in location of the heart, and up came this page. Sorry, give me a second here. Up came this page. And this is, as you can see, a slightly rotated view of a woman's heart. And look, it is on the left side of the chest from our perspective. Now, you see how she's see-through, right? You can see her bones and see through it. You can see her heart. You can see her skin. You can see her flesh. But you can see through everything. That's important to understand. Why? Because in the fourth dimension, They can see through everything. If you were to magically go into the fourth dimension and you were to look into the third dimension, you would be like Superman. You would be able to see people, you could see in their brains, you would see all of the nerves, you would see the muscles, you would see all of the blood, you would see the gases, you would see through everything. You would see their clothes, but be able to see through them. You would be able to look into a sealed envelope. You would be able to see it and see all the pages unfolded, see everything written on it, even though it's sealed shut. So this is a good representation of what it's like in the fifth dimension when they look at us. And all they have to do is they don't have to stick their hands in our chest and rotate the heart. They just simply rotate the third dimension slightly. And our heart moves directly in the chest, as you see right here in the bottom right. The chest is smack dab, or the heart is smack dab in the center, a little bit in the left. But if you rotate him and see through him, it'll look like his heart is on the left. Does that make sense? Maybe, you know, I can see it and feel it. I'm sure some of you are getting it. It might be confusing for others. Go back and play around with it. Before I go, because I have to take a client, I get to take a client. I've talked about, as best I can, all of the meanings. So now, again, I want to show you the importance of doing the spiritual practices that I'm teaching. Again, the 8-sided thunder wheel that we use is actually a 4-dimensional space. It is the shadow of the 4th dimension. And we can only work with the shadow of the 4th dimension in the 3rd dimension. But when you work with the 8 directions, especially when you're doing the Mao Shan practices, you are literally pulling down the power of higher dimensions. And you on the 3rd dimension are just going and doing your movements and facing different directions. But in actuality, where is it? In actuality, where is that? Where did that go? This. In actuality, when you do these practices and face the 8 directions and do the different sets, the wood, metal, earth, you're actually doing this in the 4th dimension. You are moving in multiple ways we can't even begin to imagine, which is why when you're doing it, you can feel all kinds of strange energy, but if you look at it, it's just somebody standing in one direction doing this, standing in another direction doing that. So that's why it's important to follow directions, because when you do all of the postures correctly, you're actually doing really weird things in the 4th dimension. And that's why we need to keep doing this, because we are shifting. The message is clear. The message is absolutely clear. Stop trying to figure it out. Wake up. We are shifting. Objects are closer than they appear. Before, objects may be closer than they appear. It's not a problem yet. Be aware of it. Nope. Objects are closer than they appear. The 5th dimension is here. Wake up, or you will get in an accident. All right, that's it. I wish you guys all the best. I love you. Please leave questions in the comment section. And if you want to support this work, you've got all these links to go to. Please do so. Subscribe at thunderwizard.com, courses.thunderwizard.com, maoshan.thunderwizard.com. That's it. I wish you guys all the best. I shall see you all very soon.